Just a step back though. You talked about you went to Japan. You know, and you met your partner. How did that you know how did that come about in terms of your desire? Was it something on a plate through Fujitsu, or was it because of the interest in the language? What made you jump?
Well, I think it was both. It all kind of rolled together quite nicely because I started taking Japanese in college before I considered going to Japan. I knew as a graduate in 1990 that there were opportunities in Ireland to certainly work within the as a computer engineer, etc. But I felt I wanted more than that. I wanted to kind of see the world. I kind of grew up in Ireland at a time of tremendous kind of economic and social change. And I think I felt in my head I was kind of way ahead in terms of what I wanted to do, in terms of what possibly was there at the time. And I felt I just needed to go. I needed to spread my wings, and I needed to travel. So I didn't want, I wasn't one of these people who wanted to go backpacking around the world. I mean, I'd love to be able to do that at some point. I still haven't. But what I love to do is to actually go and just kind of, experience working in a culture, working with people, getting to know friends. If I'm going to a random city where I don't know anybody, it's not anyway as enjoyable as going to visit somebody who actually lives in that city, even if it's an hour outside the city. So I think that I always had an interest in kind of culture and people, and traveling from that perspective. We were fortunate that they had just set up a Japanese language department in our university. So I went there, and it was I still remember the teacher. He was doing a PhD in the Irish language, Japanese man doing a PhD in the Irish language, and that was his job. And he set up a Japanese department to kind of educate the other way. So again, you can imagine the structure of the language being very different, the writing system being very different. It was you were totally disoriented. But it meant that we had the basis to learn and to land on the ground. And the great thing about Tokyo at the time was, once you got there and you were able to kind of make your way around and talk some kind of pidgin Japanese, you're already way more fluent than the person who's going to arrive the next week or 2 weeks later or a month later, and certainly more fluent than any expat. So I think the other key difference for me was I wasn't kind of joining a company being sent to Japan. I went to Japan to work directly as a local employee for a Japanese company, which meant that we were working and talking and communicating in Japanese. So I was doing my status reporting on my computer software projects in Japanese every week. I mean, that was hell. And the worst thing was reporting that status, having a meeting about it, and then have people try to help you and saying, well, Japanese is okay, but I'm not sure it's down to this particular level. But yeah, so I think those things kind of came together quite nicely in terms of an interest. I guess you kind of look at what's out there and you find the opportunities that are kind of interesting, and you kind of tie them together into something that might make sense. And as I always say, just have a go, see how.